Hello and welcome to Simon Says Artwork. In this episode it's going to be Inktober part 3. If you don't know already, then I think I snapped a ligament in my right hand, so I'm doing this Inktober with my left hand, and today I'm going to finally do what I've mentioned in the last two videos, and that is, I can still use these fingers thankfully and my thumb, so that's something. That is to use this little black sketchbook. My first image there, second image, and now on page number 3 I'm going to be doing a double page of faces. I think I'm going to be using this Tombow Fudenosuke brush pen. I say brush pen, but the nib is a flexible nib, it's not bristles. It's quite nice though, I really do enjoy it. It reminds me of the Unipin brush pen, which is kind of a fine liner, but it's a flexible brush nib. If you haven't tried these pens and you come across them, I think they're about £1, so they might be about $1, but you might get them for a little bit more. But I think you can haggle sometimes. That's what I did. So try them out, see if you like them. You can get varying line width with them, so you can get really thin lines and then quite heavy lines. Now, I'm not good with my left hand yet, so these two first drawings were experiments and me testing out what I can do and what's not comfortable. And now I'm going to try and draw faces from imagination and see how that goes. So okay, let's get started. Okay, so starting off here, I was a little bit nervous about how to approach drawing the faces, and looking through the book, I've just not done anything like that. There's been no drawings from imagination based on faces aside from those hatching faces, which is pretty different to what I'm trying in this one. So that's from a reference. These are my first two Inktober drawings, and now for this third Inktober day, I'm going to try and push out some faces. So I tried to think, what type of angles to draw faces from and what different hairstyles I was going to try to use, and maybe some facial hair, and it was all a little bit different than what I imagined. But I started off thinking this is going to be something where I can draw starting by the eyes really. And just trying to get the distance between the eyes correct is the first challenge. And then from that, trying to build the face and thinking about how much character to the face is added by how you shape the nose. And part of that is going to be not just how the nose sits on the face, but it's also the nostrils. And then part of the expression starts to be built on are the nostrils flared? Is there any kind of, because when there's kind of the nostrils are not only flared, but when the sides of your mouth, not even the sides of your mouth, it's kind of like where the upper part of your cheek is, meets your nostril. That part where you start to see some shadow develop there, it's to show apparently disgust. It's one of the things which non-verbal communication experts or analysts point out, is that disgust can be seen where you can start to see the shadow next to the nostrils, because the cheek starts to go tense there, and you can see the muscles being worked, and that's a show of disgust. So that's part of a way to build personality and expression and communication without using language. So things like that were considerations. And then a lot with the eyebrows as well. I quite enjoyed it. It was something where I was thinking, when it comes to doing the lips, I'm not sure whether or not to always make the lips quite full, or whether to, narrow certain lips so that you can barely see them. But I'm not always the best at that. So it was quite nice to return to it. This is going to be the first of many drawings that I'll do for drawing from imagination, because I am hoping to do that more often. It's something which I used to do quite a lot, and I've shown it in my hatching and cross-hatching videos. And to do this was a little bit of a return to that mindset, really. of trying to create faces. Now, I never used to do the shading like I'm doing here, but part of that was to do with getting used to this pen in my left hand. And I know that it's quite heavy and some of it didn't quite work, but I thought that on the first face I quite liked it because it was quite light and balanced. And then on the second face it became very scribbly and squiggly and quite messy, but I didn't really mind it because it's kind of character and it's a different sized face and it's just sort of a different vibe that you get from that character. And then it was just continuously trying to create these different personalities, these different characters out of nowhere, and trying to think about who this person is. The more that you draw the face, the more that you're trying to inject certain attributes that you may have come across before into that face. And that can be quite fun. Not just the emotion that's being shown by the tension in the face, but just the strength of the face or the angle that you're drawing it from can add quite a lot and create quite a bit of atmosphere to this portrait. Doing the hair is another thing which I thought I'd have a bit of fun with, partially hatching parts of the hair and then cross hatching parts of it and then not, shading the hair at all, and just bits of, it was more thoughts really, trying to figure things out. And it was fun, it was interesting. It's definitely something where I'm looking forward to the second page, because getting over the hump of the first page was the first challenge. It is scary to try and do this and to think, well, this is my installation for the day. Not installation, sorry, my installment for the day as far as Inktober goes. So I was trying to do a good enough job that I can flick through them all afterwards. I'm not going to cheat and skip out. If I do a good job, then I'm happy. But if I do a bad job, then that's just what I do. And some of this was a little bit ropey, but that's just what it is, sadly. It's just going to have to be something where, I don't know, I just show you the truth of how I'm drawing it. Now, I really do want to start including things like hands, because that adds a lot to the communication and the expression of this character, of these characters. But for the time being, I thought if I just make them different size and shaped faces and heads, then at least that'll be something where you have an impression of some kind of personality, and the hairstyle and the squint or non-squint of the eyes, and how the face sits will at least give some loose impression of who we're looking at and what we're considering for the person. But having hands in there as well means that you can also have the hands holding things or touching parts of the face, which will just say so much about what I'm trying to communicate with the person. And it won't even be something that I'm consciously communicating, because much like this page, what happens is I'm discovering what's happening as I'm drawing it, because I didn't think of it beforehand. It was in the moment. I'm reacting to each mark and trying to create something which is interesting and kind of feels true to the direction it's already heading in. If I'm being completely honest, that's what happens usually, is that when I start drawing a face, if something's larger or skewed more than I thought it might be, it's because it's on a whim. It's not something where I thought, oh, I'll do this next. I mean, the biggest decision that I make, the only decision that I make beforehand, is the vantage point. I don't decide anything about gender or style or anything like that. It's just this vantage point and see what happens. And then usually that leads to some other discovery. So it's all quite experimental to an extent, and I like that aspect of drawing from imagination. I like the fact that there's no body of work where I'm thinking, well, this is quite easy for me now, because it never is. It's never easy. It's usually a challenge, but that's something which I'm happy to engage with because it's growth. Just like drawing with my left hand, and I don't want to harp on that too much, but it's also something which I'm, it's quite a big part of it for me, is to draw faces as opposed to abstract shapes with my left hand. Parts of those were quite nice, and I do see in the future something where I can do drawings with both hands. As soon as this right hand is fully healed,
then I'm quite happy to try and do drawings where I draw with both hands. And I don't really know yet, until I try it, how people do that without having one hand start drawing nice and then the other hand taking over the focus and the concentration, and then the first drawing, say the right hand is the first drawing, that one just going awry and going messy because I'm concentrating on the left hand. I don't know if that's the case, or if it'll be similar to when I play the ukulele and I didn't initially know how you could strum and change chords at the same time, and it just takes practice. I'm sure that's the case, but I don't know whether it's better to draw one face with two hands or to try and draw different faces. I've seen different people do different things. There's a guy on Instagram. Is he called something like Aziz Khan? I don't know. I might be saying someone's name who's nothing to do with this, but if I find it, I'll bring him up in another episode. Not in this one, because I'm uploading these so fast that I apologise. I'm not going to be having many links to anything that I talk about outside of the actual drawing that I'm making. But the point being that there's a guy on Instagram who he drew several faces with both of his hands, and from what I remember, I could be wrong, but from what I remember, he did that independently. They were completely different faces, and he was just drawing them. In fact, I think he did one where he had loads of pens on a stick. I don't think he's the only person who did that, who I've seen on Instagram. I don't know how they do these things where they start drawing a face and lots of other faces next to them aren't the same face. And people in the comments were saying the way that they do it is to put weight on different pens on the stick at different times, and it's just a bit of an illusion that you're watching it as though all the faces are being drawn at once, whereas it's more all of the eyes go in at once, but then you make those little adjustments with each pen by putting weight on each pen. And I don't really know. I really don't know whether, that's what they're doing, but it looks like magic when you see it. It's really cool. So who knows? But for the time being, I really enjoyed this. I hope that you did too. And but yeah, I've only done the right hand side yet, but I will at the moment. But I will do the others soon, because I don't know if it'll be tomorrow's Inktober, whether I want to just do something a little bit different, and then I might return to the other side of the page, because I feel like I don't want to bore you by doing two loads of faces in a row. I know that I do a lot of abstract things, but I don't know, I might try something else. I'm not sure what I'm going to do tomorrow, but the point being is that I don't just want to kind of go, well, I'll finish it off tomorrow. I might return to it another day. I'm not sure at the moment. But yeah, it was fun. I liked it. And yeah, this is where I got up to. This is what it looks like. More soon.
Okay, that's I'm only going to do one page. I was going to do both pages, but to be honest, it's taken me an hour, or just over an hour I think it is, to do one page. And I like how some of them look. I'll show you now. But for now, that's where I'm going to leave it. This is the Inktober number 3, learning to draw with my left hand. So that's why I'm kind of happy with it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, press all out of the 3 selections of none, personalized, or all. Ring that all, because it's just a little red dot and you can always ignore it. But if you can't do all of those things, then thank you for watching anyway. And I'll see you in the next video.